Today on Inquirer, Turkey and Syria quake death toll rises to over 16,000. 83-man Philippine rescue team arrives in Turkey. Philippine government asks International Criminal Court to reverse its decision to proceed with its drug war investigation. Supreme Court dismisses graft charges filed against former senator and now chief presidential legal counsel Juan Ponce Enrile in connection with the coco levy funds. And hours before the NBA trade deadline, Phoenix Suns acquire Kevin Durant from the Brooklyn Nets. Good evening. The death toll from a massive earthquake in Turkey and Syria has now breached 16,000. Meanwhile, the 83-man Philippine rescue team has already arrived in Istanbul, Turkey, according to the Office of Civil Defense. To tell us more, here's John Eric Mendoza reporting live. Eric?
The massive earthquake in Turkey and Syria killed more than 16,000 people, according to latest government estimates. Of the number, 12,873 people had died in Turkey and at least 3,162 in neighboring Syria, bringing the death toll to 16,035. The death toll from Monday's 7.8 magnitude tremor is expected to rise sharply as rescue efforts pass the 72-hour mark the disaster experts consider the most likely period to save lives. To date, Turkey reported 60,000 injuries, while Syria has more than 5,000. 2 Filipinos were reportedly injured due to the tremor, according to the Department of Foreign Affairs. In a related development, the 83-man Office of Civil Defense. Initially, the Philippine contingent consisted of 87 men, but 4 had issues in documentation. The rescue team will be deployed in Adana City in Turkey, according to OCD spokesperson Bernardo Rafaelito Alejandro IV. Meanwhile, Turkish ambassador to the Philippines, Niyazi Akyol, said in a television interview that Turkey is deeply moved by the contribution of the Philippines in the search and rescue efforts in their country. He added that 66 countries, including the Philippines, have extended their assistance in his country. After sending a rescue team to Turkey, the Philippine government is now considering sending a team or aid to Syria, according to Alejandro. Alejandro said this development comes after the Syrian government formally sent a flash appeal on Wednesday night. Neil?
That's John Eric Mendoza reporting live. President Bongbong Marcos attended several activities today as part of his official working visit in Japan. To give us an update, here's Gabriel Lalu reporting live from Japan. Gab? Gab? We'll go back to that story
Hello.
in a bit. Yes,
Hello.
Gab, we can hear you now.
Sorry. President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. and members of the Philippine delegation took part in several meetings here today in Tokyo. Marcos was granted an audience earlier with Their Majesty, Emperor Naruhito and Empress Masako at around 4 p.m. local time, after which Marcos had a meeting with Prime Minister Kishida Fumio, where 7 deals signed earlier by Philippine and Japanese government officials were exchanged. These deals center on mutual cooperation in the field of humanitarian assistance, infrastructure, agriculture, disaster relief, and digitalization. Prior to these engagements, President Marcos also met Japanese stakeholders from the tourism sector and players from the semiconductor and electronics industry. The total amount of investment pledges coming from the meeting would be announced on Friday, but the administration said it is expected to provide 10,000 new jobs for Filipinos. Neil?
Gab, one of the biggest issues that we have right now is the issue of West Philippine Sea. Has President Marcos discussed this with the Japanese government?
As of now, it is unclear if there have been discussions regarding security cooperation or mutual defense concerns. But while he was on his way to Tokyo at the airplane, there were questions about this, and he said that he sees no problem with any defense cooperation because there are similar concerns. Cooperation, he basically said cooperation is not a bad thing. However, he also said that with regards to formal talks about visiting forces agreement equivalent deal with Japan, no formal proposals have been raised as of now. That was
Gab,
while he
another
was
story.
that was while he was on his way to Japan. As of now, we still don't know if these things have been discussed.
Gab, another story that we are following here in the Philippines is the one involving 4 Japanese nationals allegedly operating a crime ring there in Japan. Is that part of the discussion that President Marcos would have with the Japanese government?
Well, the president said on the similar interview that the timing was purely coincidental. He even said that the deportation procedures already started even before the trip to Japan was planned. So, but he also said that the Japanese government requested that the fugitives be turned over to them. So he was willing to accommodate that request.
Okay, Gab, that's John Gabriel Lalu reporting live. The Philippine government has asked the International Criminal Court to reverse its earlier decision to proceed with an investigation into the killings committed under the Duterte administration's anti-drug war. Solicitor General Menardo Guevara, who was Justice Secretary during the Duterte administration, filed a notice of appeal on February 3. Guevara asked the court to reverse the pretrial chamber's decision to allow prosecutor Karim Khan to pursue the investigation into alleged crimes against humanity. In a notice of appeal, Guevara disputed the pretrial chamber's conclusions that it has jurisdiction over the Philippines and that the steps taken by the government were not carried out to satisfy criminal justice. Earlier, Justice Secretary Jesus Crispin Remulla insisted that the Philippines has a functional justice system as he called the decision to resume the ICC's drug war probe as, quote, irritant. Meanwhile, the Philippine Coalition for the International Criminal Court, which represents the families of those killed in the drug war, said the appeal douses cold water onto the ray of hope from the pretrial chamber's decision. Next on Inquirer today, Supreme Court dismisses graft charges filed against former Senator and now Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile in connection with the coco levy funds. Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri pushes for VFA exploratory talks between Philippines and Japan. And hours before the NBA trade deadline, Phoenix Suns acquire Kevin Durant from the Brooklyn Nets. This is Inquirer Today. We'll be back shortly.
Pumunta po kami sa isang pharmacy po kung saan pwede makapagbili ng mga nursing materials. Habang naghihintay kami ng aming turn po sa line, bigla po namin napansin si nanay na napa-scream. Tapos bigla ang sinash yung neck. Yung pinakauna ko po talagang naisip po is to look for an adult or any other med student kasi marami din kaming pre-med and med students doon who are more skilled kaysa sa akin kasi ang gusto ko lang sana po is mag-a-assist ang kapit nila but they also nagsilayuan kaya since I knew the basics po how to prevent such injuries to worsen kaya ako na lang po yung lumapit kay Manang. When I rushed to her aid po, I did the basics on first aid and that is to apply pressure on the wounded area to intervene with the bleeding. We continued applying pressure sa wounded area. Yung friend ko rin po, si Christian Ona, na tinulungan din ako na mag-assist kay nanay, saka may worker din po sa pharmacy na nagbigay ng gauzes po sa amin po to put it in behalf sa t-shirt na pinag-put namin ng pressure sa area po. Natakot po actually. Yung thought po kasi na since tutulungan ko si nanay, baka ako po yung susundin ng mama. Baka bigla akong balikan saka nasaksakin. They told me nga if I wasn't there daw po, they wouldn't know kung ano na talaga yung condition ni nanay. And that sabi din po nila nga, I'm truly living up to my name daw po, na isang angel daw po. Ganun po ang mga interactions po. I can't blame the other people's reactions po when they were afraid, they got scared. I was also there na nakakatakot rin naman po. Sometimes, especially as a student nurse, parang it's like we dedicate ourselves for the welfare of others. If you can help in your own little way, it would truly be a blessing to others.
The Supreme Court has ordered the Office of the Ombudsman to dismiss the graft charges filed against former Senator and now Chief Presidential Legal Counsel Juan Ponce Enrile in connection with the Coco Levy Fund case. Apart from Enrile, also covered by the order issued by the High Court's First Division are businessman Jose Concepcion, Rolando de la Cuesta, Narciso Pineda, and Danilo Ursua. In a decision promulgated on January 16 but made public on Wednesday, the court also ordered the dismissal of the same case against Eduardo Cojuangco Jr., Jose Eleazar, Maria Clara Lobregat, and Augusto Orosa in view of their supervening debts. The Supreme Court said the government failed to prove that it followed the prescribed procedure in the conduct of the preliminary investigation and the prosecution of the case. It also said that the complexity of the issues and the volume of evidence made the delay inevitable, and that no prejudice was suffered by the accused as a result of the delay. All the respondents were charged by the Presidential Commission on Good Government in February 1990 for the alleged misuse of the Coco Levy funds. The PCGG had accused Cojuangco of using his influence to manipulate the Coconut Industry Development Fund to siphon off 840 million pesos to his own firm, Agricultural Investors Incorporated. Two more Japanese fugitives wanted in their country for a string of violent robberies in their home country were deported Wednesday night. Yuki Watanabe and Tomonobu Saito were put on a Japan Airlines flight. They were escorted by 7 members of the international police and members of the Japanese police. Deportation of the two pushed through after the Department of Justice no longer received any information that the complainants had filed a motion for reconsideration on the granting of the government's motion to withdraw the case. On Tuesday, the first 2 Japanese fugitives, Fujita Toshiya and Imamura Kyoto, were deported under Japanese police escorts after the cases lodged against them were dismissed in court. The Japanese government requested that the 4 be deported due to pending warrants of arrest for their involvement in a series of robberies, theft, and fraud. One of the 4 is believed to be Luffy, the alleged mastermind running the operations of the group in Japan, despite being incarcerated at the Philippines Bureau of Immigration Detention Facility. Senate President Juan Miguel Zubiri pushed the Philippines and Japan to start exploratory discussions on crafting a visiting forces agreement. In a media interview, Zubiri noted that his proposal makes strategic sense, adding that with ongoing territorial disputes over our waters, the Philippines would benefit from stronger security cooperation with allies such as Japan. Zubiri said he initially raised the idea of a Philippine-Japan VFA when he spoke with Ambassador Koshikawa Kazuhiko last year. Formal talks about VFA have not reached President Bongbong Marcos, but Zubiri said that the president's meeting with Prime Minister Kishida Fumio may be favorable time to float the proposal. Marcos is currently in Japan for an official visit, with Zubiri as part of the Philippine delegation. Currently, the Philippines has a VFA with its ally, the United States. The Phoenix Suns made a stunning acquisition late Wednesday, getting star forward Kevin Durant from the Brooklyn Nets, according to The Athletic and ESPN. Durant and TJ Warren are headed to Phoenix in exchange for Mikal Bridges, Cameron Johnson, Jay Crowder, 4 first-round draft picks, and a 2028 draft pick exchange, according to reports. The Suns add Durant to an underachieving squad that sits at 30-26, tied for 4th place in the Western Conference. Meanwhile, the Lakers, Jazz, and Minnesota Timberwolves are finalizing a deal that would send Russell Westbrook to Utah and D'Angelo Russell to Los Angeles, according to ESPN and Athletic. Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt also will be added to the Lakers, while the Jazz will also receive a top 4 protected 2027 first-round pick, plus 1 Toscano Anderson and Damian Jones from Los Angeles, per the reports. Minnesota will acquire Mike Conley Jr. and Nickel Alexander Walker from Utah and will receive second-round draft pick compensation as part of the deal. Alamin naman natin ang mainit na balita sa mundo ng showbiz kasama si Pauline Del Rosario ng Bandera. Pauline?
Hello Neil at sa mga kabandera natin all over the universe. Heto ang latest chika. Nagkaayos na ang TV host na si Willie Revillame at ang kolumnistang si Christy Fermin. Yan ay matapos ang ilang araw na sagutan ng dalawa tungkol sa pagtanaw ng utang na loob. Kwento ni Willie, tinawagan pa niya si Nanay Christy upang humingi ng sorry. Chika ng TV host, nagsigawan at nagmurahan pa sila ngunit kalaunay nagkapatawaran. Paliwanag pa niya na biktima lamang siya ng clickbait at inamin na nagkamali siya dahil dito. Matatanda ang sinabi ni Nanay Christy na nakahanda siya kung gera ang gusto ni Willie. Plano rin anya niyang isauli ang sinasabing kondo at kotse na ang totoo ay pinaghirapan din niya. Nagsimula ang awayan ng dalawa nang batikusin ni Willie sa programang Wawawin ang ilang personalidad kasunod ng balitang isasara umano ang ilang programa ng All TV. Kinwestiyon ni Willie kung bakit siya ang sinisisi gayong talent lang din siya at walang kinalaman sa mga nakapirma sa nasabing TV network. At yan ang latest Bandera Chika today. Thank you, Neil!
Maraming salamat, Pauline. And these are the stories you need to know today. I'm Neil Mercado. Catch Inquirer Today live weekdays at 6 p.m. Follow INQUIRER.net on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and Reddit. For more stories, visit INQUIRER.net. Good evening.